Today on the podcast, I've invited the beautiful Hayley and Katy from Oh My Digital to share all things marketing and their business journey all along the way. And as a partnership as well. So I'm really excited to welcome you both to the podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. We're so excited to be here.
So grateful to have you here today. And after having you speak at the Love What You Do collective event recently, had such positive feedback about everything that you shared. And I just love that you guys are all, you women, are all about sharing so much value. Like you give, and it's so incredible to see and so generous in your time as well. So to get started, what I would love for you to do is just to share a little bit of your journey, how Oh My Digital began and the partnership and how you guys came together. Just to give people a bit of an idea of how you all started.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's all started probably a bit over maybe 4 years ago now. So Hayley and I actually worked together. So a few of you might have heard this story before. We'd love to share it, but basically Hayley was actually managing a digital marketing studio. And I actually came in as an intern in the really early days. And then we soon, became like working together full time as team members. And this was in around maybe like 2015, 2016 when I came into the picture. And really at that time, like digital marketing had been around for a while, but it was still relatively new to a lot of businesses, and a lot of people still didn't really understand it. And it was still very much this like kind of wild west, I suppose, where like you could sell anyone anything because a lot of people just really didn't understand it, but they knew it was something that they were pressured to be doing. So like marketing managers, they would be like, oh my God, I need to be doing all this digital marketing stuff, but I don't have the skills. So they would just like kind of would, if an agency came along and said, oh, hey, we can do all this stuff for you, they would jump at that. And we just noticed there was a bit of a gap between, I guess, what people were being sold into and what people were being convinced that they needed, and then what they actually needed for their business and for their goals. So after a while, eventually, it was funny, we both kind of at the same time had the idea in our head that we wanted to do our own thing, but we were kind of like nervous to like say it out loud because we didn't think the other person would be keen. But it ended up happening at like a dinner party one night.
Yeah.
And it just kind of, we were like, yeah, let's do it.
A few glasses of wine in.
Yeah. And it all started happening, while we were still at the agency. So it was an interesting time, us trying to coordinate starting up our own agency whilst coordinating our swift exit of the current agency we were working for. So it kind of just really concreted our values and what we stood for, and it made us working together as a partnership much easier because we both already knew what our common values were, because that's essentially what started the business, and we already knew how each other worked. So it was much easier than say starting a business with a friend, because we both already knew, if the other one was cranky, it was probably just because you hadn't eaten yet, or hadn't had enough food, or we were just overworked, or we needed to help each other out in some capacity. Like we always sort of knew not to take it personally. And whereas if you were in a friendship partnership, you may not know those type things about someone professionally. So definitely made working together much easier.
That's so awesome and so fascinating when you think about it from that perspective, because I was going to ask you, like, what do you feel helped you set up that partnership to make it work really well? And I'm sure there's been challenges along the way, but I love how you've spoken to that you both knew your values and why you were starting Oh My Digital. Yeah. So was there anything else in particular that you did to set the partnership up that made it work so well?
I think too, just, and this wasn't necessarily like a strategic thing, just kind of how it worked out, but we're very like kind of yin and yang. So like we're really similar in a lot of ways, which makes it easy because we tend to just agree on almost everything anyway, because we want the same things. Again, like it comes back to the values, like, so we're always on the same page. But I think personality wise, we like balance each other out a lot as well. So like we really know we both have our own strengths, and it's like, I think you say this a lot, Christine, like your strengths can be tied to like a weakness as well. So because we have those different strengths and weaknesses, like together we're like this dream team, and we can like do everything. So I think that helps a lot. And I think the other thing is just having the same goals as well. Like we kind of like even in our personal life, we kind of want the same things, and that really helps us make decisions because we're not fighting against the direction of where we want to take things, and we're just like kind of on the same page. So I think if you can get that stuff sorted in the early days, that really helps.
That's really
cool.
cool.
Imagine it would be quite difficult if you had a business partner that might be at a different life stage as you. Even though we're different in ages, we've been very similar in our life stages. So
we're both like old ladies.
So we've been very fortunate that, you know, we're both very similar. Whereas I can imagine if you had a much younger business partner and an older business partner that was potentially, you know, had kids, or, you know, they were just very different lifestyles, that it might be much more difficult to coordinate, you know, what you saw the future of the business being. Whereas because we're both quite similar with what we want, it's made it much more easier for us to coordinate.
Yeah, and I totally agree with the goals piece as well. Like, I think you really need to have really clear goals and both be on the same page with them, because I've seen that affect other partnerships too, where one person wants to go bigger and, you know, expand, and the other person's like, no, I just want to be the same. Like, I want to stay small. And so it's like, it's so good that you guys are both on the same page with that too.
And we reassess it really often too. Like, we probably reassess it every 6 to 12 months. And we basically just like, you know, we say to ourselves, like, do you even like doing this? Is this something you even like doing? And then we might just be, both of us might be like, I hate this. And we're like, okay, well, let's just get rid of it. Or, you know, we might be like, oh, do you even want this for the business? Is this what you want to be doing in the future? And then we reassess that quite often, just to make sure that we're both doing things that we actually want to do. And if there's one thing that one of us wants to do and one thing the other one doesn't want to do, then we just sort of rearrange our schedules so that, you know, one person does it and the other one doesn't, or, you know, that kind of thing. So it just kind of, we try to balance it out.
That's so good. And I think even as an individual in business, those are key questions you need to be asking yourself, because it can be so easy to get off path and be going down the direction of doing other things, thinking that's what you have to do or what you should be doing. And then actually going, well, do you want to do it? Like, do you like doing it? Like, if you don't, why are you even doing it?
And I think, like, you get really caught up in comparison, and that's something that we've found ourselves in quite often, is that we look at other people and we're looking at what other people are doing, and we sort of get caught up in this, well, they're launching this and they're doing that, and we should be doing that. And I think we've just recently kind of taken a step back and been like, okay, no, we don't need to be doing the typical agency thing. We can make our own path, and, you know, we can do what suits us. We don't have to follow the same structure that everyone else has.
And that's the exact reason why you got into it, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's exactly right. We got into it to make our lives easier, not harder. So
and I would love for you to speak towards, like, you were talking about how, you know, lean into your strengths, Katie. I'd love it how you could speak to the fact that you guys do different things to help support the whole overall business goals, right? So you guys both have different zones of genius, I guess I would put it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it wasn't necessarily that we even like sat down at the start and wrote down what that was, but it's just something that we've kind of found and like fell into as we've gone. So it's just been a really natural thing of like, I like doing these things, Hayley likes doing these things, which is really good. So, and that goes across like the internal stuff, like, and the client work as well. So for example, like, I really love like content. I do a lot more of that. So like the social media management side of things. And then Hayley does a lot more of the advertising as well. So we kind of sometimes split things that way. Like, we both do both, but, you know, we kind of break it up like that. And then we both even have different like industries and different types of clients that we like to work with as well. So again, we kind of will take the lead on different things there. And that's kind of how we break things out. And even internally, like, I take over with a lot more of like the really boring like finance and, you know, numbers and spreadsheety stuff, which I'm terrible at, but I don't mind doing it. And, you know, I just get people in to help me, and I kind of look after that side. Whereas like Hayley takes the lead a lot more with our own marketing and our own content, because that's what she's really amazing at. And we just kind of break things out like that. And it was really just a natural kind of what we fell into doing. And we just were like, this is what we're going to take responsibility for, which was just really convenient, really. But it works well. So
love it. And I want to dive into who you work with and all the marketing ideas and trends and all of that sort of stuff. But before we do, I would love to know, has there been like a challenge that you've been able to overcome, like in regards to your partnership? Has there been sometimes like a challenge where you've had something not work out, or you've, you know, a communication breakdown or something like that, and how you actually handled that?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of an example.
because even like I've noticed in other partnerships, like they have like a strategy in the way that they argue, or if they have a disagreement, like how they go about having that discussion to come to a solution. I would just be curious whether that's even something you've considered.
I think there's only ever been maybe one thing that we've probably ever not really like agreed on, but it's not like but we've always found like middle ground.
Yeah.
Like it's not, we've never had there's never been anything that we've never just been like, it's just
It's not black or white
argument. It's always just been like, I would like to do it this way, and then one of us has been like, I would like to do it this way, and then we've kind of just been like, we've both said our reasons, and then we've been like, well, why don't we do it this way? And then like that's kind of generally, there's never been an actual like argument. So yeah.
Cool.
I think it's only really like in regards to things that it's probably more like the financial side of things. I think probably more than anything, and that's probably more just from my like because it's usually where I'm like super stressed, and I also like my probably like lack of knowledge in the area, because I just don't get it. So, I try as hard as I can, but I just don't get it. So it's probably just that side of things, where like there's extra pressure and extra, like that side. That's probably the only thing that we've ever had any kind of like disagreement on. But in saying that, like it's always just like once we've had a discussion about it, it's
sorted out. I'm just like so fascinated by it, because it's like two different people that are coming together to work together. There's two totally different mindsets, two different money mindsets, two different belief systems about how you were brought up, but also how you do work. Like it's just fascinating for me from a human behavior perspective.
I think because our values are like almost identical. So I think because our values are so same, we know that like, and pretty much in any scenario, like we can always generally answer for each other in any scenario, because we always know what the other one will say. So like, I think that's where we're pretty similar. So it's always, we're always pretty like, we're always on the same page at least. So I think that's where, we're pretty, I think that's where we're at least pretty similar.
Love it.
I think because we know this, we have the same end goal, right? So we can always figure out the like, how do you get there? Like that's the part that can change, but the end goal just stays the same, and that's I think what really matters. So
love it, so good. And it's even like a flexibility in mind that it's like we're not against each other. There's no right or wrong. It's actually just like, how do we come up with a solution that's going to get us to the next step?
Exactly.
So good. Awesome. So what I'd love to do now is I would love for you to both to share your take on marketing, because I think it's really interesting to hear it from a different perspective, to like, what does marketing mean to you? Because I think a lot of people have so many positive and negative things about marketing, and they bring a lot of like, I even have had clients in the past where they're just like, I hate marketing. And I'm like, you're going to have to learn to love marketing, because it doesn't have to be a love-hate relationship, right? And I think I would love to hear from your point of view, for both of you, what marketing means to you.
Totally. So I think there's like a total misconception about marketing, that marketing is social media. And I think that like that is one of the biggest myths that there is, that social media is a tool of the marketing like set. There's so many other tools out there, but marketing is essentially just how you present your brand and how you actually sell your brand online. But it's also so much deeper than that. It's forming actually long-lasting connections with your audience, with your clients. It's how you build trust. It's how you build, commitment. It's a lot more than that. It's not just selling. It's actually building like, lifelong connections with people. And people don't realize that even just having conversations with people on Instagram is essentially marketing, because that's part of the communications piece. It's all it all forms together. They don't kind of realize that it's bigger than just posting on social media and all of that.
Yeah. And I think like to add off the back of that as well, like with what you said, Christine, if you're sitting there with the mindset of like, I hate marketing, I would just be asking myself, like, why do I hate marketing? Like, what is it about it that I don't like? Because I can guarantee you, like, whatever it is, you can avoid it altogether. Like, there's always a different way to do something. Like, there's a million different ways you can achieve like the one goal. So whatever it is you don't like about it, that's fine. Just don't have that as part of your strategy, or if you really, really must do it, get someone to do it for you. there's always a way around it.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Totally agree. And I always come down to as well, like the element of like the reason most likely why you hate it is because you don't understand it well enough to feel confident in it, right? So it might be just that you need to gain further clarity or learn it and be okay with learning it, right? It's a whole new modality. And I think that people think that once you get into business that you should know marketing or you should be good at it. It's a whole other modality, right? Like you guys studied it. Like it's not like something that you just overnight were like, oh, I'm just great at this. Like it doesn't happen that way.
And I think the thing too is that a lot of people see all these free tips and free things on social media, and there's only so much you can learn for free on social media. Like you need to realize that sometimes you do actually have to invest in someone to teach you, or you have to invest in a course, or you have to invest in outsourcing someone to do it for you. There's only so much free information on the internet that you can follow. So I think that's another thing that people get caught down that rabbit hole of being like, well, I've taken all the advice and it's not working for me. And it's like, well, it's probably because you're not taking advice that's tailored for you. And you probably need to take a step back and actually look at what your goals are and what you're actually trying to achieve. Because I think that's really important, is actually looking at what you're actually trying to get out of your marketing. So are you trying to grow your email list? Are you trying to get online sales? Are you trying to book clients? You need to actually take a step back and see what you're actually trying to achieve, and then work from there to see how you're going to achieve that. Because I think people get caught up in the vanity metrics and get caught up in the follows and the likes, and they lose track of the important things. And that's where we kind of try to re-educate people all the time about what's actually important, and so they can kind of feel a little bit more empowered to do it themselves, because they realize that it's actually much more simple than it needs to be. It doesn't have to be all, filming these beautifully high, tech reels every day if you don't want to. It can be as simple as sending an email to your database once a fortnight that's really well, really well formatted and has lots of high value, and, really gives them what they're looking for. And that might be the thing that really works for you. It doesn't have to be something that someone's telling you to do on social media. It could be, you have to look at what works for you.
Yeah. I think also recognizing that things in your business change, so you also have to adapt with the change as well. Like I think that if you are still doing the same strategies that you were doing last year, you may need to reevaluate where you're at, where your business is at, and where you then want to take it. And I think people can get caught up in the patterns of just doing the same thing and then expecting a different result. Do you see that as well?
Oh yeah, all the time. And even like, if we are going to talk specifically about online channels, something that worked 1 year or 2 years ago, it might not still work now. So yeah, just like you're saying, you do have to kind of adapt as you go. But yeah, I think like Hayley was saying, just try not to overcomplicate it, because at the end of the day, if you take in everything that you read about marketing or whatever, you're just going to be so overwhelmed, and you're going to be trying to do all these things that might not even be relevant to you and what you need. So you've just really got to put that like filter on of, does this apply to me, or is this going to help me or not? And just try to block out some of the noise, I think.
Yeah, you're so right. It's that noise, right? Because if we are always consuming and trying to then figure out what's next to implement, we can get so caught up in just consuming and then not actually doing the action to get the result to see if it worked or not, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and that's a good point as well. You've got to be constantly measuring and just seeing if something is working. And if it's not, change it or, pivot it.
We generally redo our content plan every year. So at the beginning of every year, we generally have a look at our insights. We have a look at what our goals are for the year. We have a look at our content structure, and we redo it every 12 months just to make sure that we're still on par with what we want to do and what we're trying to achieve. And it just makes it easier. You set it out at the beginning of the year, and then kind of, don't have to kind of constantly think about it. And stress
and you
over
can just
it.
revisit and see where you're at and just pivot if you need to. Yeah. So I would love to know, where do you feel has changed? Because I mean, we've gone through so much in the last, say, 2 years in regards to the climate and just the whole business space, with the C word. I'm not going to use it, but I even want to just have an idea of, like, from your perspective, from when you went from agency to then go through everything that just happened into now 2021, how do you see that the marketing space has evolved, and what do you see as like the most important thing to be focusing on at the moment?
Yeah. I think communication is probably one of the biggest things. So having a really united communication front across all channels. So having that, all of your online front really clearly updated. I think that was a really important thing. When a lot of people had to go online, people started to realize how difficult it was to contact some places to get information. So for example, like, the Google My Business listings, people were trying to contact local cafes to see if they were still open and there was no phone number listed, or, there was no address, or there was an old address or old photos, or, things like that. So just that kind of information, but also outdated websites, things that were hard to use became really apparent, and those businesses that had really outdated models also struggled a lot because people who couldn't use websites that weren't functioning properly just bounced quite quickly. So having that that model that was a little bit outdated really struggled on that front. And then also the communication on social media. So people who weren't replying to DMs, people who weren't replying to comments and that sort of thing, weren't answering people's questions, were probably also feeling the brunt of it because they weren't able to help their customers when they needed them most. And I think that was also really seen as a lack of caring and in a time where people really needed a bit of help. So I think that's one of the bigger things that we've seen.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it really separated the people that were prepared and the people that weren't, because a lot of the things Hayley just talked about, they're nothing new. They're things that we've been moving toward for years and years, but a lot of people have just kind of ignored them or gotten a little bit left behind, I think. So it's really amplified that and kind of put the magnifying glass on that lately. And then I think if I was to add something that's changed in the last few years as well, it's just more and more and more there is massive accountability on brands as well. People care more and more every day now about who they're really buying from and the impact of what they're buying, and just that whole social justice side behind things, and that's massive as well. So just really looking at things like how you can show people that your business is ethically run, or what your actual brand values are, or how you're creating change. And even if you sell something really basic, it doesn't have to be this huge thing. Not every brand has to align to that necessarily, but it's just the little things about how you run your business that people want to know. And particularly for bigger brands too, customers are putting so much accountability on them now. I can't tell you, almost any time I see a Facebook ad for, a new brand, and particularly product-based brands, I always read through the comments, and all the comments are oh, but is this tested on animals, or where is this manufactured? Customers want to know that stuff. And this, again, it's been happening for a long time, but it's really, really become a mainstream thing now. So I think
and even the inclusivity element with Black Lives Matter, that was so amazing to see, people being called out, people's board of directors, literally, I just remember seeing people outlining all the different brands and what their board of directors are, and it just blew my mind. And it actually really stayed in my mind that there's certain brands that I do not buy from anymore because of that reason, right? I love that, it is the power to the people, right? I think it's just awesome.
Yeah, there was this I actually saw it the other day. I've already forgotten the magazine because I don't think it was an Australian magazine, but K-Ray Design shared it as a post, and I was oh wow, they on International Women's Day, they shared this post of these men in, I think they were in fireman suits or something, and the post was because every day we celebrate women here, we're using today to give the women some eye candy.
Ew.
And you should have seen the comments. They just got absolutely roasted. People are just, and that's it. Everyone was we're canceling this magazine. We're no longer using this magazine. People just roasted them. And I think that's the thing, is that now people are just standing up for what they believe. They're not accepting, people that are tone deaf anymore. They're not accepting people that miss the mark in their marketing material anymore. People just have to be so self-aware of what they're posting, and so aware of, the fact that they're not being offensive to anyone. I mean, how anyone let that one go, I don't know. And everyone was you can tell that a male has done this, and that there was a male photographer. It was all just
so crazy. I saw another one actually. I think it might have been Mia from Idello that posted it, and Ideallo, sorry. So Mia from Ideallo posted it, and it was like, I think it was a burger chain, and they were like, women belong in the kitchen.
Burger King,
It was Burger
yeah.
King, wasn't it? And in the comments, they were like, "Oh no, this we're speaking to the fact that more women want to be chefs, and we're giving them the opportunity, making sure it's as available to women to be chefs than it is for men." And it was like so tone deaf, like that backfired big time, buddy. Like, who
Read
thought
the
that was
room.
okay?
Yeah, I think
Crazy.
it was actually all planned, and like they did that on purpose to get people's attention so they'd click and read the tweet replies and actually read it. But yeah, it was definitely a big risk that they took for people to take it out of context, and that has obviously happened. So
Yeah, so out of context. Yeah, so true.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy. So I would love to know, like, what, as an individually for you guys, what would you say that your favorite marketing channel is? And if you could speak to 2 tips that you would have for someone right now on how to improve that area of their business.
Okay, so marketing channels is in like marketing platform, do you mean?
Yeah, so it could be platform, email, like, voice, like all the different types of platforms that we can use for marketing.
Yeah.
What would yours be?
I mean, I can definitely tell you what my favorite is, but I think I should talk about the one that's probably the most important. So I think the most important is your website in terms of your marketing platform. So having a really well-functioning website that makes it really clear as to what your unique selling point is, how to contact you, what you've done that's unique, your testimonials, and having it function really well so that anyone that lands on the website can find all of this information really easily. I think that's the most important marketing tool that there is. Not enough people use their websites well enough. A lot of people still just use their Instagram instead of their website, and that's where I'm leading with this. Instagram is definitely probably my favorite marketing platform, and that's just for the community aspect. I love Instagram for the community aspect because I've made so many friends from Instagram. And I also just love how uplifting and inclusive it's been for us ourselves, coming off the back of the agency where we were sort of told that you can't make friends with people in your industry because they're all going to copy you and they're all out to get you, and getting told that you can't make money on Instagram and it's a waste of time, for us to start on Instagram, and that's where all of our leads came from, that's where all of our friends came from, that's where our community has come from. It's just I love it.
Was that from a corporate perspective? Just
yes.
Yeah, totally. So outdated, honestly.
Yeah, it was hilarious. We were just like, okay, we'll go do it and we'll tell you how that goes for us. I mean, their company is bust now, so I mean, who won that argument? But yeah, so in terms of my tips, I would just say for a website, if you can, try to have a professional look over it to give you, even if it's a professional or a friend that is in business, have a look over it from like a customer point of view, because I think that can be really helpful sometimes, just having someone else test your website, having them click on all the buttons and test it from a user point of view and see, where did this button go? Is that where I thought it was going to go? Is that what I thought that experience was going to be for me? Because sometimes what you think is logical for your website isn't what's going to be logical for someone else that's experiencing your website for the first time. So that can be a really helpful tool to have someone that, that well, but also knows a little bit about your brand. Having a look at it for you can be really helpful. And then in terms of Instagram, my biggest tip would be to have something in place to drive them off Instagram onto a platform that you own. So for example, your email list. So we always talk about having a lead magnet, which is the, a freebie or a discount or something like that, which is enticing for them, that solves a pain point for them, and you're driving them from the platform that you don't own, which is social media, onto one that you do, which is your email list.
Great segue, because I was going to say email marketing. So yeah, that mine was going to be email.
Very well planned, girls.
Yeah. Like Hayley was saying, it's an owned channel like your website. So yeah, I think we've all learned recently in particular, your Facebook page or your Instagram, unfortunately, while they're still very valuable and you should take full advantage of them, you should also plan for the worst case scenario where it could disappear tomorrow. Like you don't control it at the end of the day. So yeah, like Hayley was saying, use it as a way to drive people on your list. I love email marketing because it's free. Unlike advertising, you get to reach your audience for free. And not only that, but it's actually like, well, provided you're not going to spam, your email is going to get in their inbox. It's not like throwing up an ad and some people in your audience might see it or they might not. Like it's definitely going to go to that person. It's so measurable. And I guess my tip for it would just be that your email is not a flyer. So don't think of it like the olden days where you would print something out and put it in someone's letterbox. It's very different to that now. And just, I think, the best emails I get, they just feel like a message from a friend, and obviously that comes down to brand and things like that too. But just absolutely, we say this all the time, it should be about value first and foremost, and then sales is like the next thing. So even if we're sending out an email to our list that does have a promotional goal behind it, we'll always fill it, the very first 80% of the email is like some valuable information for people or a funny story or something like that. And, then it has the sell is like the last thing at the end, and it's relevant. That would be my tip. It's not a flyer. Just pretend like you're talking to a mate. Tell them something interesting or valuable or something that's going to make their day. And that's what email marketing should be. And remember that email marketing can be two-way as well. It's not an advertisement or it's not something you're putting in someone's letterbox. It's something people can reply to, something people can have a conversation with you. So try to make it a conversation starter as much as you can as well.
Yeah, awesome. Love that. And I think that anytime that I ever get stuck writing my emails, it's usually because I'm either thinking too big or I'm thinking like, what have I got to talk about this at the moment, right? Like I'm actually, rather than thinking about the client or who it is I really want to speak to. And every time I come back to go, okay, so if I was talking to a client or a friend or someone that I know is on this email list that really needs the support right now, like what would I want to say to them? It always helps me get so much clearer and makes it more personal, because I felt like coming from a corporate background, it's so automatic for my brain to be like, good afternoon. Like it's like it makes it really awkward and it feels so salesy and it feels so icky that you just like, actually that's not, I'm like, hey, how you doing? Right? Rather than actually being really like professional speak, I guess.
It can take a while to get out of that corporate mindset where you're so used to, like, especially when you've gone to like uni and then into the corporate world, because you're so used to writing that way, to then switch it to writing it to much more conversational tone. It's programmed to write a certain way, and then you're taught to turn that all around and do the opposite. So it's kind of it can be take a little bit to get used to.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing it for years now, and it still feels like sometimes I have to remind myself, like, hang on a minute, you're not writing a professional email to something. But I always find that if I'm thinking of one person rather than a group of people, it's much easier to make it more personalized for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Amazing tip. So good. So it can feel like things are constantly changing with everything that's happened in the past couple of years. And it always feels like there's always some new algorithm change. There's something else happened with the platform. There's a new thing that's been created. Like it can feel like it's constantly changing. What advice would you have for business owners to help with that constant change or that feeling like you have to try and keep up to date with everything?
Yes. I do have one tip for this actually, and it kind of goes back to what I said before about cutting out the noise. So try to just focus in on, one or two or three sources that you use as like your go-to for like updates. I think that's really important. That doesn't mean you have to like unfollow absolutely everyone else, but just use those three people as like your main go-to source. And then if you hear a rumor about something or you hear that something's changing, go to them and see what they say. You know, so for us, we definitely have go-to people that we look to, whether it's their expert about Facebook ads or, you know, obviously we're going to have a lot more because it's something we have to stay across. But if you're just the average business owner, just have a handful of people that you look to for those updates. And yeah, honestly, just try to kind of block out the rest and leave it up to us, because it's our job actually at the end of the day to keep you updated about that stuff. That's why you follow us. That's why you're on our email list. That's why you're potentially like in a membership or something like we have, so we can keep you updated about that stuff. And yeah, just have those go-to people in your corner that you can trust their advice and their updates, and you don't need to worry about the rest. Let them tell you what's going on.
Yeah.
I love that. And that's exactly why I follow you. So if people are listening to this and you're not following Oh My Digital, best you go and do that now. And even like, I find like it was something the other day even, and something had happened. I can't even remember what it was now, but I literally was flicking through my stories and then Hayley pops up and she's like, okay, no, this is just nonsense. Stop listening to it. And I'm like, thank you.
Oh, it's probably the new, was it the algorithm rumor that's going around? There's been a new algorithm. And I was like, if I see one more of these posts, it got to the point where I was literally DMing people and I was like, hi, just letting you know that this is actually a rumor that's going around. And I was like, so I was a little bit more abrupt to the social media managers. I was like, you should really not be sharing this information because it is incorrect. But for the business owners, I was like, just letting you know it's actually not true. So you don't need to worry. But I was definitely more abrupt to the social media managers. I was like, you should know better. You shouldn't be scaring people.
But like they use it. People use it as a scare tactic, right? And it's so annoying.
Yep. And that's what I was telling people. I was like, you know, the original posts were created as clickbait and were created so that everyone else would share their post and boost their position in the algorithm. It had nothing to do with the actual fact of the matter. It was for their own greedy, you know, selfish goals.
And I think there could be so much, I mean, there's been enough fear mongering in the last couple of years. We don't need any more of it. And I think when it comes down to it, I think this is what you guys were talking about. I love what you do, but about the fact that these social media platforms are a business. They need us to survive. Yeah. And there's always going to, like, it's not like they're going to shut it down tomorrow, because imagine the billions of dollars that they would lose out on, right? Like, it's not like that's going to happen. And I guess, yes, totally be aware of like having an email list, having something that you own, I think is really, really great advice. But also know that it's not like it's going to change overnight. Like, just be calm, just go about doing your thing, stay in your own lane, like do your thing.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, like, you got to remember, like, one, these platforms exist for their users. So it's literally in their best interest to keep people loving and using their platform. So that's their main number one goal. And then second to that, the whole way they make revenue is through businesses that advertise on them and that use them. So they're always going to be keeping those groups of people happy at the end of the day.
So true. So true. Cool. Okay. So what I want to talk about now, I want to talk about community and your best advice on how we develop that community and how we build the community. And then I want to talk about how we take our business to the next level with different marketing strategies. So let's dive into community. What's your best advice when it comes to developing a community? What's your go-to? What's your suggestions on how people do that for their business?
Yeah. So probably got a few different tips there. My number one would probably be to actually, join some communities like the Founders Team, which we joined last year.
Yeah, a year ago.
Yeah, the beginning of last year, I think we joined, and we had FOMO for so long because we'd been looking at it. We're like, we need to do this. And then we finally joined, and then we finally got why it was just so important, because you've got this little like cheerleading squad that you can DM whenever you've got a problem, and, you know, they troubleshoot it with you. They keep you on track with your goals. And that's really important, but it's its own little community in itself, having that Facebook group where you can all just ask each other, you know, questions. And if you've got a problem, they can all troubleshoot it together. So having that as a community is really important. Having a group of people with similar interests and similar problems to, you know, help you when you're struggling, because sometimes your friends and family just don't get it. They just don't understand your problems because how could they relate when they haven't been in a similar situation themselves? So that's probably the main suggestions I'd have. The second one, in terms of like building a community on a platform like Instagram is probably more just spending time actually chatting to people. So when we first started on Instagram, we actually started chatting with people like WordFetty, with Reed City. There were so many people. I actually think a brand is not a logo. We started chatting with so many different girls that we bumped into on Instagram. We were just like, oh my God, these guys are amazing. Like, they've got such great content. They're really cool people. And we just started commenting on all of their posts. We started, DMing each other. And it was just about, rather than focusing on engagement and pushing your engagement up, for us, it was just about making friendships and actually just having genuine connections. And it gets to the point where, Ola Digital and I will send each other maths memes every night. And, there's all these different Soulfire Wellness and I will, we talk about Britney Spears conspiracies and it becomes an actual friendship where you actually, it becomes more than just, an Instagram connection that you made. It becomes becomes part of a community, because you actually start forming these real connections. And it's really just about spending time and being genuine and actually just caring about their business and caring about their content, and I guess just cheering them on and sharing their content as well. And being there for them. Showing up and being there for them, I think, is the main probably suggestion.
Yeah. And I think, to add to what Hayley was saying, I think you can really tell, and it really makes a big difference. Just, you need to have your heart in the right place going into this too, because if you go onto any online platform or even networking offline, it's like, imagine you rocked up at a networking event and all you cared about was just handing out as many business cards as possible, and you were just purposely there because you wanted leads or you wanted sales and you wanted to make money. People are going to think you're a
I've been to
bad
that
person.
before.
I was going to swear. People are not going to like you, right? Because you're not adding any value, right? But if you rock up and you genuinely just want to have really good conversations with people and get to know people, that's how you build actual valuable relationships. And then it comes back to you later on tenfold in terms of those sales and so on. But you just have to, do the baby steps first. And it's exactly the same with anything online. Just actually be there to be genuine and
human to human.
Yeah. And I think as well, going to networking events, like your amazing networking events, is really crucial as well. And just actually meeting people in person and developing those connections further and sort of showing up and supporting each other, I think, is another really important part of that as well.
And so on the back of that, I really kind of want to speak to, I actually want to ask you, how do you manage that? Like, being able to constantly be active on social media, going to events, building those relationships. Is there any tips that you have in regards to managing that? Because that's time consuming, right?
Well, the number one is have a business partner. So, I always say to people, don't compare the level that you're able to do to what we're able to do, because obviously there's two of us. So that does help. And we kind of alternate weeks as well. So we'll focus on doing stuff more to give each other a little bit of a break. So that is really good. But I would
then when you reply to your DMs, are you always like, this is Hayley, this is Katy?
You know what Katy does? I'm really bad at it. I forget. And then I forget that people don't know who it is. So I forget people don't know who they're talking to. But I think most of the time people work out that it's me, because I'm generally more enthusiastic in the way that I reply. I've got a lot more exclamation marks, and I use GIFs and things. So I think people can generally tell it's me when and then again, I'll generally go into the conspiracy stuff and the kind of the reality TV stuff. So I think they generally know it's me.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. Awesome. So I would love to now talk about your membership. So let's talk about the membership, because I think that there's elements of building relationships and community, but then if you want to start to monetize it, you want to start to consider elements of membership. So, and there's so many different ways that you could obviously monetize your community, but I think a lot of people are starting to consider memberships now, or they already have a membership. So can you talk us through your decision-making process in creating a membership and why you did it, but then also what are some of the things that you've done that have made it work really well?
Yeah, I think ultimately our whole idea behind it was because, ever since we started, and just through the way we've been really active on Instagram, and that's where we get a lot of our business from. Like, we do really attract, and we are mostly active in that kind of like small business kind of community, which is awesome. And one thing we really noticed was just that, you know, when you're at that early stage of business, one, not only is like outsourcing to an agency probably way out of the budget, but besides that, even if you did kind of have the budget for it, it's probably not like super worthwhile for you if you haven't at least, you know, gotten your own head around how things work yet, or you don't have the understanding, or you haven't at least done some trial and error to get a bit of an idea of what works for your audience. And we just feel like even if, you know, a business owner does want to outsource to someone in the future, they're going to have a much better time and get better results out of it if they have some understanding of what they're hiring that person for. So it's just exactly the same as like, you know, working with a bookkeeper or an accountant. Like, that is not my zone of genius whatsoever. That's why I outsource it. But I need to be able to like read those financial documents, and I need to be able to match things up, and I need to be able to check what I'm signing and see that they're doing the right thing, and, you know that they're actually helping me. And it's exactly the same if you're a small business owner hiring a marketing agency. The more empowered you can be and educated you can be to understand what you're doing and how things work, and trust me, it's a lot easier to learn than something like accounting, then, you know, you're just going to be way more empowered. You're not going to get ripped off by someone. You're going to understand what you're getting, and you're going to get so much more out of it. So we just wanted to create this kind of extra step, I guess, for those people that are like starting to DIY, but maybe they don't really have much direction. They feel like they're just throwing stuff at the wall. They want some guidance, some structure. They want someone to kind of hold their hand a little bit. That was what we made the membership for. And it's been really cool to see people like grow up with the membership as well. So we've had quite a few now. They've stuck at it for 12 months and really committed themselves and done all the homework and done the work, and they've seen the results. And now they're at the point where they're like, cool, now I'm ready to outsource. So now I'm taking my business to the next level. And that's really, really cool.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the long story of why we made it. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. And I think, like, was there, because you're obviously like at the moment you're quite booked up with the one-on-one aspect.
Yes.
So was it that driven by that you were like, well, we can't service any more people, so we need another option for them as well?
Absolutely. That was part of it, because I guess we always had those people that came to us and they wanted to work with us, and they probably thought that, you know, just hiring us to do stuff for them was like the only option, but really they needed something more like the membership. Like, that was better suited to them. And yeah, the other side of it too, like Hayley and I tossed this up for a long time, because we weren't sure, like, do we grow as an agency and scale that way and have a big team and just take on endless one-on-one clients, or do we go more something that's split between, we do a little bit of one-on-one work and we have something like the membership as well? And ultimately, like, kind of what we've gone with now is more the latter option, because at the end of the day, the whole reason we started is because we wanted to be super personal with what we were doing for people. And it's not to say that a bigger agency can't do that. We've just seen it go wrong so many times. And yeah, there's lots of people that do it well, but for us, it's just not what we want.
Yeah.
It's not what we wanted to do, and it doesn't feel like amazing. It doesn't feel right. Whereas something like our membership, that feels right for us, and that's when we know we can give heaps of value. So.
And I think you have a strength of being able to educate. So I think that's also, you know, going down your zone of genius.
Yeah.
Was that also a consideration? It's like, well, what do we love doing? Did that come into play?
Yeah, exactly. Like, we get so much joy out of that, like doing little workshops or things like that. We just love teaching people, because we love seeing them. They just get that instant like transformation of, you know, I came in an hour ago and I was really confused, and now I have something to work with and I know what I'm doing, and I'm going to go and do this and hit my goals. Like, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. So where can people find out about the membership?
So it's over on our website. We'll give you the link, Christine, that people can find in the show notes. That would be amazing. So you can just click over on there. Or also, if you go to our Instagram bio and tap that, you'll see the Oh My Digital membership there as well.
Awesome. And do you do like different intakes, or is it available to jump in whenever? How does it work?
At the moment, you can join anytime.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Amazing. All right. So now let's dive into how to take someone's business to the next level. So let's give, if I give you an example, let's say someone's at a point where they are maybe even at the stage where they are starting to build their one-on-one. So they've actually gotten to a point where they're getting quite busy, and they know at some point down the track, they're going to get to a point where they're not going to be able to take on any more one-on-one, and they want to go towards a group element, or maybe it's not even necessarily group, but they want to be able to take their business and grow it to that next kind of scale. What do you think that they need to be looking at first before they then start to consider? And then what marketing pieces do you think would be best for them to move into the next scale? I know this is like, it's a hard question. I get that, but I want to kind of speak to those people, to my listeners that are at that next stage of growth, right? So it's like, what should they be considering when they're starting to grow to that next level scale? Do they need to be looking at areas of their business to see what's working to then make those decisions? Or do you feel like they need to be considering the next level goals? Like, what would you do?
I'd say when they're at that stage, they probably need to be, I would say when they're at that stage, they probably need to be talking to like a business coach to make sure that they're super clear on what their goals are. So where they actually want to be taking the business in terms of direction and, I guess like what their financial goals are and what they actually want to be achieving, and then they can sort of work out what their marketing goals are from there. Because I think unless you're really clear on what your actual business goals are, it can be difficult to work out how you can achieve that with your marketing goals.
I think the only other, I totally agree with that. And the only other thing I would add too, like off the back of that, have a think about who your audience is. So chances are like you've got your one-on-one customers like are going to be one audience, and then potentially the people, like even if you don't know what it's going to look like yet, but if you're thinking that one day you're going to have something that's membership or workshops or digital products, whatever, that's probably a different kind of audience to who your one-on-one clients are. Or they're a similar person, but they're at like a different stage in business. So I would probably also just be, even if you don't know what that new offering is going to look like yet, think about who that audience is that it's going to be for, and try to start building them as an audience. So whether that's maybe you make a free Facebook group that you get those people into, or maybe you make a specific email list or some kind of wait list that you get those people into, or design a specific like freebie or lead magnet that would appeal to those people, and then that's a way you can kind of start to build up a list. Just have an audience of them somewhere, and then that way when you do know what that offering is going to be, you're going to have that built up. Because I just think that's one of those things that's really, really hard. Like you can't do that overnight. So the earlier you can start doing that, then you'll kind of be in a better position later when you know what you want to do.
And something like that too is probably something where you need to start investing in Facebook ads when you're at that stage, because if you don't already have an audience, like if you're wanting to take to that next level and you don't already have that audience available, that's when you probably do need to start looking at cold audiences on Facebook, if you are really clear on who your audience is, and targeting them through Facebook, through that lead magnet, and using that as a way to drive them through that funnel that you've designed. So that's probably the next stage when you're at that stage in business, is investing in Facebook ads. And when you're at that stage, you usually do have to invest a little bit of money to actually get that reach that you need.
Yeah, for sure.
That's such a good point too, because I think something we need to remember is like it's great to focus on your warm audiences, like your social media followers or whatever, but eventually you're going to run out of reach, and you just need to reach new people, and advertising is probably what you need at that point. Yeah.
Love it. Awesome. So good. And so for all of that to all come into place, we need to be consistently creating content. And what's one of the biggest challenges I think a lot of business owners struggle with is that they just don't know what content to be creating for their audience. So I know that you love talking about this. So can you share with us a little bit about how you help business owners generate content ideas?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a few tools that we use that we find really helpful to generate content ideas. So there's one that's really handy called Answer the Public. So I don't know if you've heard of it, but basically it's like a search engine where you just type in your keywords and it comes up with a whole bunch of different suggestions based on things that people have already been searching. And it comes up with full sentence structures as to, the how, the why, the what. the where of the sentence structure that you've searched. So it could be all the different ways that people have been asking for more information about that particular keyword. And it's so, so interesting, all the different ideas that you can generate just from that one key search engine. Some other suggestions that we also have are Google Alerts. So not everyone uses Google Alerts, but they are so, so helpful. So we have them set up for our brand, we have them set up for our clients, and we also have them set up for keywords. So we have them set up for like Instagram publications and Facebook and things like that, so that if there's any breaking news, as soon as it comes out daily, it comes directly to our inbox as well. And that can be really good for brands that share industry news, so that they've got that coming to their inbox daily as well. So that's another really great tool that we use. Did you want to share the other one?
Cool.
Yeah. Oh God, there's so many. I'm just trying to think now.
Google Trends.
Oh yeah, Google Trends is a really good one too. So that's just similar, like with kind of keyword research. You can just pop in a topic or a specific like keyword that's related to what you do. And it will actually show you trends in like when people are searching it in different locations as well. So that could give you really good ideas about like kind of what's relevant at what times of the year. And you can also just go on like kind of the front page of there, narrow it down, and it'll tell you like what people are searching for and talking about online at the moment, which is really, really valuable because you get heaps of ideas there. And then it just gives you that guidance of, you know, you're not just plucking something out of thin air for one, but two, you're actually making sure you're talking about things that people actually care about right now. So being like timely and topical is really important. I think that's something people sometimes miss, because a lot of your content will be evergreen stuff that's relevant all the time, but you do want to have that element of things that are really timely for right now, because that's the stuff that ultimately gives you, I guess, a big advantage to get ahead of other people as well, because you're giving something that's like so up to the minute that people really want to see. So that's another good one too. Yeah.
Love it. So good. Amazing.
The main ones.
Yeah, so good. Okay, so I've got two last little questions. So firstly, what are you excited about for this year to come?
Yeah, I think just probably now we've kind of got super clear just over the last few weeks about our direction, because it's been something we've been like kind of flip-flopping for a little while and we weren't really sure what we wanted to do, but now we feel really clear about where we want to go. And look, I'm sure in a year or so it might change again, but you know, like right now we're really clear on what we want to do. We're changing things up. We're saying no to the things that, you know, we love doing but we can't do any more of, and you know, we're just focusing on the awesome clients that we already have, and then launching a few new things that we can help lots more people in a more efficient way. So that's going to be really exciting, just leaning into those things that we like doing and doing less of the things that we don't like doing. So I'm excited for that.
We're also doing a little bit of a brand refresh, so I'm a bit excited for that. We're working with the amazing Sarah from Digital Bloom, so I'm super excited to see how that all works out as well.
Yes.
Amazing. Amazing. Last question. So if you had someone that came to you and was asking for advice on how to take their business to the next level, what would be the best advice you would like to give them?
Yeah, just I feel like we've said this a lot, but for me it would just be like, know what your goals are.
That's what
like, because if they came to me and asked like from a marketing perspective or a promotion perspective, what should I do? Like, you can't even pick anything, like any tactic that you want to do unless you really know what your goals are first. So just think about what your business needs to look like, and then you can pick out those tactics that are going to help you get there. But on that note, like I was saying as well before, like, don't be afraid to go for things that you are going to enjoy and that are going to feel right for you, especially if you're doing it yourself, because there's always like different things you can pick from, but yeah, go for the things that you know are going to be realistic for you to actually do consistently, because that's way more important than trying to do what everyone else is doing and giving up because you hate it. So yeah, work to your strengths.
Good advice.
Probably the only other thing I'd add to that on the back of that as well is just having a really good marketing funnel that works for you without you having to put too much energy into it. So a really good email flow that, you know, a good lead magnet that you can drive people off your social media channels onto your email list, and an email list that's working for you without you having to do anything with it. So it just drives people through the workflow that it gets them to your end goal, whatever your end goal might be. So that all does it on autopilot for you, and you only have to look at the results and see how they're working and tweak it as need be. And that should do a lot of the work for you. So something like that can, make a huge difference.
Beautiful. Awesome. Thank you so much, beautiful ladies. It's been such a great opportunity to chat to you and to dive into your business journey and share more about your experience. So I really appreciate you spending the time with me today.
Thanks for having us. So much fun.
My pleasure.